Just ahead on CTV News.
Tens of thousands of workers at ports along the east and Gulf Coast go on strike. I'm Byron Scott. Will have that story coming up.
Plus, the vice presidential debate is tonight. We talk with our political analyst on what to expect. And Simon Buggs has our Tuesday sports page. Those stories and more. CTV News starts now.
Good evening. This is CTV News for October 1st. I'm Mariah Jalad. Thanks for joining us. Workers hit the picket line at 36 ports, including cargo operations in Maryland. The work stoppage could pose a real threat to the U.S. economy, just as voters head to the polls in a few weeks. Byron Scott has our story.
Just weeks after the port of Baltimore reopened following the collapse of the Key Bridge, this port, along with ports along the east and Gulf Coast, are shut down due to a strike.
Who are we? ILA! Who are we? ILA!
This was the scene this morning in Dundalk with workers on the picket line and passers-by expressing their support. Some 45,000 port workers walked off their jobs at midnight. The work stoppage is affecting ports up and down the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. The International Longshoremen's Association, or ILA, and the U.S. Maritime Alliance exchanged last-minute offers but failed to come to an agreement, and the strike was on.
I tell you what we're gonna do! Shut them down!
The union wants more money and a ban on automation of port operations. Economists say if the work stoppage drags on, it could cost the U.S. economy $5 billion a day.
Yeah, what we gonna do? Shut them down, man! What we gonna do?
Now, just how long the strike will last is anyone's guess. The last time the ILA walked out was 1977, and that lasted for 44 days. In Dundalk, Byron Scott, CTV News.
Thank you, Byron. Workers at West Coast ports belong to a different union and agreed to a new contract last year. Well, tonight, both vice presidential candidates, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, will face off during their first debate. To help us understand what's at stake is CTV News political contributor John Ronquillo, director of the University of Maryland's Institute for Public Leadership. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ronquillo.
Happy to be here, Mariah.
So we've got 90 minutes of debate tonight. We've been hearing it's going to be a large bowl of popcorn night. Is that true? Are we in for a wild ride?
I think we are. I don't think that, at least in my recent memory, that there has been a vice presidential debate that so many people are going to be so keenly attuned to, especially given that this may be the final debate before the election, given that former President Trump has not agreed to debate Vice President Harris again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you mentioned, we might not be hearing again in this way both candidates from either side talking to each other. How important is this for both parties? And who do you think this is more important for?
It's tough to go one way or the other. I think that it's actually incredibly important for both parties, again, given the timing and given that our presidential candidates are unlikely to debate each other at this point in time with the election just over about a month away. I think there are a number of things that are going to pop up. Obviously, we just heard a story about the strike affecting a number of ports on the Eastern Seaboard and further down the coast. I think there are things that are domestic, such as that. I think one of the things that is at the top of a lot of people's minds is around the fact that Senator J.D. Vance, President Trump's vice presidential candidate, has supported a total abortion ban. And I think that there is a lot of concern and a lot of questions around where that ticket falls, whether or not they approve of a total ban, as Senator Vance has advocated for in the past. And it seems as if the presidential candidate in former President Trump is a little bit wobbly in terms of where they stand on that. And I feel that the Harris-Walz ticket is a little bit more clearer in terms of where they are on that issue, but also a number of other things on in terms of international affairs as well, too, with a lot of the activity that's happening in the Middle East between Hamas, between Israel, and now with Lebanon involved as well.
Mm-hmm. And concerning the two candidates, polls have been showing that Vance is not as popular, seen as less likable than Tim Walz. What can he do tonight to kind of bridge that gap?
You know what? to be honest and say anything, really. It's unfortunate because I feel that as shocking as the pick was for Donald Trump to pick J.D. Vance, and for as compelling of a story as he has, obviously we know him to be the author of his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, he has not been looked very favorably upon. In fact, some polls earlier on in the election season were calling J.D. Vance one of the most unpopular choices to be vice president in our nation's history. And so I think tonight he really has to try and talk a little bit more about who he is. I think that that's something that people still want to know. I think we've seen him sort of flip-flop on his own support of the person he's running to be vice president to. He once upon a time said a lot of very sternly worded things about Donald Trump, and now we see him just a couple of years later as his vice presidential running mate. And so I think people want to see him acquit himself a little bit and to get to know who the real person is that may be the next vice president of the United States. Mm-hmm. And I think in terms of his counterpart in Tim Walz, he's got his folksy aphorisms. You know, they keep referring to him as Coach Walz, and that's something that endears people to him and has made him not only a popular governor in the state of Minnesota, but very popular in terms of his choice for this ticket. And so given that popularity does oftentimes permeate these presidential and vice presidential choices, I think J.D. Vance really needs to humanize himself tonight. Mm-hmm.
And CBS has said they will not be fact-checking during the debate tonight. You know, they did that during the Trump and Kamala debate, and it didn't go over well. Who do you think that's going to hurt or help more tonight?
I think it has a chance to help both of the candidates, to tell you the truth. I think by and large, you know, our being so attuned to the truth and fact-checking these things is important. But at the same time, my understanding is that CBS wants folks to focus more on the crux of a lot of the issues and to keep the flow of the debate going. They've also said that they're not going to necessarily mute the microphones as they have with the presidential debates, but that they will exercise that option if necessary. I think it keeps folks tuned to what the candidates are saying. And again, there won't be an audience tonight. But I think it also gives us enough time to maybe reflect on what the candidates say, and then if needed, go back and verify that what they did say is in fact true. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us again today, John.
Thank you, Mariah. Thanks.
The debate begins tonight at 9 p.m. And in other news, a federal judge rules in favor of Students for Justice in Palestine, reinstating the group's previously planned vigil at the University of Maryland for October 7th. The judge ruled that the university deprived students of their freedom of speech rights under the First Amendment by canceling the event. In the opinion, Judge Peter Messite said the university shall in no way prohibit or impede SJP from hosting its proposed vigil to remember victims of the year-long war in Gaza. Judge Messite also said the university has the right to increase security for the event and to remove anyone from campus that does not comply with crowd control measures. And Prince George's police have released surveillance video of a suspect involved in an Oxon Hill shooting. The suspect is seen at the 5100 block of Indian Head Highway on Friday night, moments before the shooting. Police found 30-year-old Daryl McCall in the parking lot suffering from gunshot wounds. He was later pronounced dead on the scene. A second man was shot and taken to the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. A $25,000 reward is being offered for information leading to an arrest and indictment in this case. Meanwhile, police have found and charged a man in connection with the fatal shooting in Hyattsville. 18-year-old Dartrell Bryant is being charged with first and second-degree murder of 26-year-old Jawan Jackson. The shooting happened at the 2900 block of 52nd Avenue on September 19th. Police found Jackson in the roadway suffering from gunshot wounds. He was later pronounced dead on the scene. Investigation shows that Bryant and Jackson knew each other. A county construction company owner is sentenced for pocketing employee wages. Jose Walter Marquez Rivera owns Congratulations Construction, which worked on 2 projects at the University of Maryland. The Office of the Attorney General found that Marquez paid his workers a substantially lower rate than required by law. Marquez will have to pay nearly $300,000 in restitution and is sentenced to 90 days in jail, followed by 5 years probation. Attorney General Anthony Brown is asking any worker that was involved with the company's projects at UMD to come forward regarding the restitution they may be entitled to. And even though Election Day is still more than a month away, voting has already started across Maryland with more than 700,000 mail-in ballots sent out. In-person early voting starts in just a few weeks, too, on October 24th. Recent reports say voter registration has been breaking records across the country, which could mean unprecedented turnout. CTV spoke with the state's administrator of elections about how Maryland prepared for voting this year.
While people are still thinking about this and that, as an election official, like, our election has already begun, and we're recruiting more election judges just to be on the safe side for early voting and for Election Day. But we've trained a substantial amount of election judges, and ready to start in-person voting later this month. Of course, I like to see 100% turnout. That's my goal. And one of the things is I've also been trying to focus on more youth turnout as well.
Stay tuned later in the week for more on how the Board of Elections is combating mis- and disinformation about voting. And you're watching CTV News. Still to come, Council member Crystal Oriatha is launching a domestic violence campaign. Find out the details and how she plans to support victims in the community after the break.
We are women first, but women with disabilities last.
During a military exercise, we crashed and I broke my neck.
When I was in the Air Force, an accident changed my life. I couldn't have imagined the injustices I would face.
Every day, women like me go to the doctor for annual checkups for conditions like breast cancer. Early detection saved my life. But women with disabilities face a cruel reality: inaccessible medical facilities and equipment.
In the 25 years since my injury, I have not seen a gynecologist. There's not one accessible OB/GYN in my community.
I found lumps in my breast. I went to a doctor's office I was told was accessible, but when I got there, I couldn't get through the front door.
I don't know where I'd be today without access to testing. Our veterans deserve better. Help PVA fight for access at pva.org.
Welcome back. Today marks a historic milestone as President Jimmy Carter celebrates his 100th birthday. He is the first former president to reach this milestone. Known for his humanitarian efforts and dedication to public service, Carter's legacy extends far beyond his presidency. After leaving office in 1981, he founded the Carter Center, focusing on promoting peace, democracy, and global health. Carter, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, has worked tirelessly with Habitat for Humanity, helping to build homes for those in need. His remarkable life of service continues to inspire generations. Happy 100th birthday, President Carter. County Council member Crystal Oriatha is launching an effort to combat domestic violence. The No More Domestic Violence campaign addresses the issue by bringing law enforcement and the community together to hold abusers accountable and support domestic violence survivors. Oriatha held a press conference with other Maryland leaders today to speak about the importance of this campaign.
The biggest blocks for survivors is thinking that they're not going to be believed and that they will lose all of their support. That if I come out and I say that this person's abused me, what if they don't believe me? And what if they take someone else's side? And what if they leave me and I'm left with no support network? And so this is so important for families and for friends to realize that being supportive and making sure that what that abuser says to them, that no one will believe you and no one will be there for you. It's so important that you prove them wrong.
Oriatha also proposed the Healing Scars Act, which will provide resources to survivors and require health insurance agencies to cover costs of cosmetic procedures stemming from acts of domestic violence. And parents, pay attention. The Maryland Kids Code Coalition is celebrating as a new online safety law has come into effect. Over the past year and a half, community organizations and advocates across the state called for Senate Bill 571, which requires companies complete a data protection impact assessment by April 1st of 2026 if children are likely to access their online products. The landmark protections will cover almost 1.4 million kids and teens. Following Governor Moore's signing of the bill, the Washington Post reported that Meta would back down from threats to sue to stop the law from going into effect. And recent school rankings revealed that the Howard County Public School System is the highest rated district in the state of Maryland. The rankings conducted by Niche judged schools districts on academics, teachers, resources and facilities, diversity, college prep, and more. Howard County received an A grade in 6 out of the 8 categories. Prince George's Public Schools did not make the top 17 ranking and received a C+ grade. And the Prince George's County Chamber of Commerce is celebrating their 100-year anniversary. This Saturday, a gala will be held in honor of the centennial year, and local businesses and business leaders will be honored. Some of the awards include a Special Lifetime Achievement Award and Emerging Business of the Year, just to name a few. We spoke with the Chamber's president and CEO about this historic milestone.
So it's a celebration of 100 years, but it's also a celebration of a launch into a new century. Right? New products, new opportunities, new ways to serve, new businesses that will be brought forth through innovation, through climate, through everything, right? So it's a very unique moment. It only happens once in a century. So the work that we do culminates in this moment, but it's not the end, it's actually the start.
The gala will feature over 500 guests, with some special guests including County Executive Angela Alsobrooks. Well, if you're looking for somewhere warm to visit in the upcoming months, listen up. TSA announced today its pre-check program has added Caribbean Airlines and Dominican Republic airline Red Air to the nearly 100 airlines already participating in the program. TSA PreCheck is an expedited screening program that helps low-risk travelers enjoy a secure and efficient screening experience at more than 200 U.S. state and territory airports. Most TSA PreCheck passengers wait less than 10 minutes in dedicated lanes nationwide. And still to come on CTV News, did you know that the county jail has a program that aims at helping inmates?
Coming up, we'll speak with students who are learning the skills in barbering and cosmetology behind bars. Stick around, we'll tell you more details after the break.
My biggest fear is not being there for my 4-year-old grandson. In 2019, I beat breast cancer. In 2021, it came back. It has spread to my spine and my bones. They say there's no cure for it. There's just treatment.
Join us to end cancer as we know it, for everyone.
Thanks to ACS-funded research, I have a chance to be here for my grandson.
Bad news, you've been arrested. Good news, you're innocent to proven guilty. Bail is set at $1,000. If you got that, good news, you go home and await your trial. If you don't, sorry, you go to jail to wait for weeks or months. But sure, you still presumed innocent. But since you can't afford bail, you've lost your freedom, and that's not right. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free.
The Maryland Department of Juvenile Services launches a commission to review and report on youth services, facilities, and programs. This at the same time the department announces reforms to its detention policies and new supportive programming for youth involved in the justice system. The Commission on Juvenile Justice Reform and Emerging Best Practices will also review programs to divert children from the juvenile justice system. Well, with every bad decision, there is a consequence. But one program at a local jail is trying to give inmates a second chance, one hairstyle at a time. CTV's Michaela Newton takes a step inside Prince George's County Department of Corrections to see how students in the program are trying to right their wrongs.
Being a young black man in a barbershop, the environment is something I always like. I always like being around other older dudes talking about stuff going on in the community, sports, entertainment.
This isn't just a barbershop.
It's like when I come down here, it's like I'm not really locked up no more. It's like I'm in a barbershop.
It's a lifeline. 8 stations, each with a story waiting to unfold.
When we here, we here. We not in jail no more.
Michael Phelps, a 23-year-old, found himself behind bars at 22.
Armed carjacking.
After just 11 months, he's here, carving out a new identity, unsure of how much time he has left.
With barbering, it's relatively fast money and it's legal money, so you don't have to break law to make money fast.
For months, he's been learning the tricks of the trade, from the books to cutting other inmates' hair. What is something that you want to learn in the future when it comes to this program?
When it comes to barbering, I want to learn how to like do designs and things with people's hair and do like hair coloring.
For the amount of time that they're here, they don't feel like they're here.
Program managers at the Prince George's County Department of Corrections are steering clear of recidivism.
I've done everything in barbering. I've been a student, and I've been a manager, and I've been an owner, and so now it's time for me to give back.
The program managers of the Barber and Cosmetology program say that most of their students who complete the course do not return to jail after their release. Now, with plenty of time to reflect, students say that the skills that they learn are crucial for achieving their goals once they re-enter society.
The success rate has been pretty good. I have had at least 4 girls go into different places, from schools to going to be assistants for other cosmetologists.
Next door, aspiring hairstylists hone their craft, mastering the art of braiding and styling, each strand a step towards empowerment.
I've been learning how to do hair, I've learned how to braid, I've learned how to do locks, and just, natural hair care.
In a world that often sees them as statistics, these individuals are proving that transformation is possible. From behind bars to beyond, they're shaping their futures, one hairstyle at a time.
I felt confident and just, with gratitude, grateful.
Thank you so much for that report, Michaela. Students can participate in the barber program for 3 to 18 months and accrue hours while incarcerated. The cosmetology program is for just 6 weeks, and students can actually earn a certificate upon completion of the program. Maryland's First Lady, Dawn Moore, was honored with the Champion of Reproductive Health Award. She was awarded by Planned Parenthood of Metropolitan Washington, D.C. The organization has serviced the district area for over 80 years, and among 400 attendees, First Lady Moore accepted her award. Prince George's County Council Chair Jolene Ivey also was an honoree at the event. Social anxiety affects 15 million American adults, which is around 7% of the population, with most experiencing symptoms from childhood. Despite its prevalence, it can take up to 10 years for individuals to seek help, often leading to higher risks of substance abuse and depression. In her new memoir, Out of My Shell, Overcoming Social Anxiety from Childhood to Adulthood, therapist Natasha Daniels reflects on her own battle with social anxiety, sharing how it shaped her life.
It was therapeutic. I didn't think it would be because it's a big project, but writing it in minute detail, and I do therapy with my younger selves in the book, was actually really therapeutic. And even just having it out there is therapeutic. If you're worried about pimples and you're worried about, for me, when I was in school, it was worried about reading out loud. I thought I was going to have an anxiety attack. I think you get better at masking. Some people do as they become adults. And then there's other issues. It can impact your profession, or now you're a mother. That's embarrassing. There's things your kids can do. It can grow bigger with different ages.
For more information about Out of My Shell, go to socialanxietyreality.com. Well, basketball season starts this month, and Simon Buggs is here with our Tuesday Sports page. We got a little preview of the NBA season.
That's right, Michaela. The Washington Wizards, they held their media day yesterday, and some players had some very interesting things to say. Stay right there, sports fans, as I'll recap what Wizards guard Jordan Poole and forward Alex Sarr had to say. Be right back.
On game day, you see our strength, but we see yours too. We see the strength it takes to get screened, facing your fears while still having hope, knowing that even with great strength, there are some battles best fought with people by your side. Getting screened is the first step.
Hey everybody, it's time for this new show's best segment, the Tuesday Sports page. Now the NBA season is right around the corner, basketball fans, and the Washington Wizards will try to improve upon a disappointing 2024 season where they went just 15-67. One player that'll be instrumental in the Wizards being better this season is guard Jordan Poole. Poole struggled last season, averaging 17 points on a very inefficient 41% shooting from the floor and 33% from three. And the Michigan product gave his thoughts at the team's media day yesterday on what will go into him having a bounce-back season in 2025.
The setup that we have going into this year, having a year under my belt, feel like we added some pretty good pieces, some pieces that'll help us on the court, make us more competitive, and then ultimately just playing my position, being able to start the season, playing the one, getting my teammates involved, getting out in transition, kind of back to playing my game in which I was able, to kind of build my game in the NBA off of.
There is some excitement going into this season as rookie Alex Sarr will be taking the court in a Wizards uniform. Washington selected the France native with the second pick in this year's draft. Sarr was present at the team's media day as well, and he talked about establishing chemistry with the team's vets in Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma.
JP is like a point guard, so it's a lot of connection between me and him that needs to be made. So we talk a lot about screening angles, what are his spots on the floor, what are my spots, and just trying to get to know each other. Same for Kuz, he's really dominant, and I guess I try to find my windows when I'm playing with him. What's his spots, what are his habits, what shots he takes. So I can definitely learn from both of them.
Washington will open up this season against the defending champions Boston Celtics on October 24th. Now Orioles fans get excited because the postseason is finally here. The Birds took the field for their first wild card game earlier today against the Kansas City Royals. Now Baltimore struggled during the second half of the season, but won their final 7 out of 10 regular season games. And shortstop Gunnar Henderson touched on if he thinks the team has gained enough momentum as they begin postseason play.
Yeah, I mean, the offense started clicking and the pitchers have been throwing it really well. And, I felt like it's setting us up to get going. And it seems like we've been putting up a decent amount of runs the past week. And, hopefully it's setting us up for a good run.
The game began at 4:08. And finally, the Washington Nationals will be at home for the postseason as the team failed to make the playoffs. The Nats finished at 71-91 for the second straight season. The last time Washington punched a ticket to the playoffs was in 2019 when they won the World Series.
All right, Simon, what are you thinking about the Wizards this year? Are we seeing a bit of a positive outlook, or?
I still don't think they'll be very good. I think they'll have a slight improvement if Jordan Poole can have a bounce back season. Kyle Kuzma had a pretty decent season last year. If he can continue with that on that trajectory, and if Alex Sarr can have some impact as a rookie, I can see this team maybe being a playing team. They're definitely not on the same level as the Celtics, the Sixers, the Bucks. So they'll be
Mavericks, my Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, your Dallas Mavericks. Yeah, there'll be some improvement, but they're still not close to contending. So there'll be slight improvement, but not much. All
right. Well, thanks, Simon.
No problem.
Now let's get a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight we will have some showers and fog, so be cautious if you're heading out. Tomorrow there'll be some morning fog, but mostly cloudy through the day with a high of 73. Thursday will be partly sunny. We'll have a high of 75 and low of 62. Friday, great start to the weekend. Expect more sunshine. It's going to be 77 degrees. Now let's get a look at our community calendar. Tomorrow morning, the Prince George's County Police Department is hosting Coffee with a Cop. The day is dedicated to building bridges of communication and positive interactions between officers and the public. This event takes place from 10 a.m. to noon at Fairwood Park. For more information, contact 301-352-1200. And that wraps up CTV News for now. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.